Why releasing what we hold on to opens the door to lasting peace. Have you ever wondered why life can feel unsettled even during moments when everything seems to be going well? Many of us spend years believing that happiness is waiting on the other side of success, approval, possessions, or perfect circumstances. We work harder, strive for more, and try to organize every detail of our lives. Yet when we finally reach those milestones, an empty feeling often remains. The reason isn't that we're missing something essential. More often, it's because we're weighed down by things we were never meant to carry. Buddhist wisdom teaches that genuine happiness isn't created by adding more to our lives. It grows when we release what no longer serves us. The tighter we hold on to expectations, painful memories, fear, and rigid beliefs about who we are, the less room we leave for peace to enter. Releasing these burdens isn't an act of defeat or surrender to failure. It's an expression of courage. It's the decision to reconnect with the calm, authentic self that has always existed beneath the weight of attachment. As the Buddha wisely taught, we only lose the things we cling to. That simple truth points toward a profound way of living. Throughout this journey, we'll discover timeless Buddhist lessons that reveal why letting go is far more than one step toward happiness. It is the very path that leads us there. 1. Release the need to control everything. Modern life constantly encourages us to believe that complete control will bring security. We convince ourselves that if we can organize every detail, predict every outcome, and prepare for every possibility, we'll finally feel calm. We try to manage our careers, relationships, future plans, and even the opinions and actions of other people. We make schedules, create detailed goals, and develop backup plans for situations that may never happen. At first, this approach feels responsible. But over time, the endless effort to control every outcome becomes exhausting. Instead of creating peace, it often produces anxiety, frustration, and disappointment. The reason is simple. Life was never designed to obey our plans. It moves like a flowing river, always changing direction, always carrying us towards something new. No amount of force can stop its current or shape every twist according to our wishes. Buddhism reminds us that much of our suffering begins when we struggle against reality instead of accepting it. The harder we resist life's natural movement, the more conflict we create within ourselves. Yet remarkable peace becomes possible when we stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world. Letting go of control doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or giving up on your dreams. It doesn't mean becoming passive or careless. Instead, it means releasing the belief that your happiness depends on everything unfolding exactly as you imagined. When you soften your grip, your heart becomes lighter. You begin to trust that life can still unfold beautifully, even when it surprises you. Challenges no longer feel like personal failures, and unexpected changes become opportunities instead of threats. Rather than becoming consumed by worry, you learn to meet each moment with greater wisdom, patience, and calm. Most importantly, you stop living inside endless worries about tomorrow or painful memories of yesterday. Your attention returns to the only place where life is truly happening, the present moment. Choosing to release control is not a sign of weakness. It reflects resilience, emotional maturity, and deep inner confidence. It means valuing peace more than perfection, and recognizing that true security doesn't come from controlling every circumstance. It comes from trusting your ability to face whatever life brings. Often, life's greatest blessings appear not because everything followed your carefully crafted plan, but because you allowed yourself to embrace the unexpected. 2. Release the weight of the past. Nearly everyone carries memories that still leave an ache inside. It may be an old mistake, a painful betrayal, the loss of someone you loved, or words that left invisible scars. Even years later, the mind can replay those moments repeatedly, quietly hoping that somehow reliving them will change what already happened. But no amount of reflection can rewrite yesterday. While the original pain may have been unavoidable, continuing to revisit it over and over creates fresh suffering in the present. Buddhist teachings explain that our deepest suffering often comes not only from painful experiences themselves, but from our unwillingness to loosen our grip on them. The past exists only in memory, yet we continually carry it into today, allowing it to shape how we think, feel, and see ourselves. Letting go doesn't require erasing your memories or pretending your wounds never existed. It means recognizing that those experiences no longer control your future, unless you continue giving them power. Every time you tell yourself that you should have been different, or convince yourself that you'll never heal, you strengthen the chains connecting you to yesterday. Over time, those thoughts begin to feel like your identity. But they are not who you are. You are not defined by your failures. You are not the sum of your regrets. You are not permanently marked by what someone else did to you. Your life is shaped by the choices you make today, in this very moment. Buddhism invites us to practice acceptance, not approval of the pain we experienced, but acceptance that it happened and cannot be changed. Acknowledge the hurt, recognize the lessons it brought. Allow yourself to see how it transformed you. Then give yourself permission to stop carrying it everywhere you go. When you no longer define yourself through your wounds, you begin to realize they represent only one chapter of your journey, never the entire story. Just as the lotus rises from muddy water to bloom with extraordinary beauty, our greatest strength often grows from the places where life once seemed to break us. Releasing yesterday gives tomorrow a chance. Moving beyond the past doesn't mean pretending it never happened or trying to erase the chapters that shaped your life. It means refusing to let those chapters become the prison you live in. Instead of looking back with regret or resentment, you can meet your former self with kindness and understanding. You can acknowledge that you were doing your best while carrying pain, and recognize that healing is now replacing suffering. Your experiences deserve to be honored because they help shape your journey. But they don't have to determine where your journey ends. When you finally set down the emotional weight you've carried for so long, you create room for fresh beginnings, meaningful relationships, joyful moments, and a heart that feels lighter with every step forward. #3. Release expectations and welcome reality. Much of our emotional pain begins with silent expectations that we rarely question. Without realizing it, we create an unwritten script for how life should unfold. We expect people to understand us, reward our kindness, recognize our efforts, and behave according to our standards. We imagine success arriving on our preferred timeline and believe each day should unfold exactly as planned. When life refuses to follow that script, disappointment naturally follows. Frustration grows, resentment appears, and sometimes even heartbreak takes root. The reality, however, is that life was never designed to satisfy every expectation we create. People will sometimes misunderstand you. Circumstances will shift without warning. Plans will change. Opportunities will arrive late, and outcomes won't always resemble the picture you imagined. Buddhist teachings remind us that attachment to expectations is one of the hidden causes of suffering. Whenever reality differs from the story we've written in our minds, we resist what is. We question why things aren't happening the way we wanted, instead of accepting what this moment is offering. True peace isn't found by forcing reality to match our expectations. It appears when we learn to welcome life exactly as it unfolds. Think about the moments that have caused you the greatest stress. Often the suffering doesn't come from the situation itself, but from believing that it should have been different. A careless comment hurts more because you expected kindness. Delayed progress feels unbearable because you assumed success would come quickly. The stronger your attachment to how life ought to be, the harder it becomes to appreciate life as it actually is. Letting go of expectations doesn't require abandoning your dreams or lowering your standards. You can still pursue meaningful goals while releasing the demand that everything happen according to your personal timetable. Instead of asking, "Why isn't life giving me what I wanted?" begin asking, "What lesson is this moment offering me?" That small shift transforms resistance into curiosity and frustration into growth. As your expectations become lighter, gratitude naturally grows stronger. You begin noticing the gifts already surrounding you instead of focusing on what hasn't arrived. Unexpected opportunities become easier to recognize. Challenges become teachers rather than enemies. Life starts to feel richer because you're no longer measuring every experience against an imaginary standard. Release the endless list of how things should happen. Let go of rigid timelines and perfect scenarios. Even when life rewrites your plans, it still holds remarkable purpose, unexpected beauty, and meaningful lessons for anyone willing to embrace reality instead of resisting it. #4. Release attachment before it becomes suffering. Every person enters this world with empty hands, yet as life unfolds, we gradually begin holding tightly to the things we believe complete us. We attach ourselves to relationships, possessions, achievements, identities, emotions, and dreams. We convince ourselves that certain people must remain, certain circumstances must never change, and certain successes must always belong to us. With attachment comes fear, the fear of losing what we love, the fear of change, and the fear that happiness will disappear if life takes something away. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us of a truth that is both simple and profound. Everything in existence is constantly changing. Nothing remains exactly as it is forever. Youth fades, careers evolve, relationships transform, victories pass, and even life's deepest pain eventually changes with time. Suffering often begins when we forget this natural law. Instead of accepting change as part of life, we demand permanence from a world that has never promised it. We become anxious about losing what we have and devastated when change inevitably arrives. The difficulty isn't that life changes. The difficulty lies in believing it wasn't supposed to. Attachment whispers that your happiness depends on possessing something outside yourself. It convinces you that without a certain person, achievement, or circumstance, you cannot feel complete. But trying to cling to life is much like trying to trap water between your fingers. The harder you squeeze, the more quickly it slips away. Buddhism doesn't ask you to stop loving others or to distance yourself from beauty and joy. Instead, it teaches a gentler way of loving, one that is free from possession and fear. It encourages you to treasure each experience without believing it belongs to you forever. Real peace isn't created by freezing life in place. It comes from accepting life's natural rhythm, where beginnings and endings, gains and losses, arrivals and departures all exist together. Picture yourself sitting beside a flowing river, watching leaves drift peacefully across the surface. Every leaf represents a season of life, a relationship, an emotion, or a precious memory. When attachment takes over, your instinct is to reach into the water and hold on to each passing leaf, afraid to let it continue its journey. Trying to hold on to each passing leaf is impossible because the river never stops moving. The current continues forward whether we accept it or not. When we refuse to release what is meant to pass, we don't stop the river, we simply allow ourselves to be pulled under by our resistance. Freedom begins the moment we stop fighting the flow. Imagine watching that same leaf drift downstream with open hands and a grateful heart instead of reaching desperately to keep it. In that simple act of acceptance, you align yourself with one of life's greatest truths. Everything changes. Nothing remains exactly the same forever, and there is peace in embracing that reality. This doesn't mean your love becomes weaker. In fact, it becomes deeper and more genuine. You stop confusing love with ownership. You no longer build your identity around people, achievements, or possessions that can disappear with time. Instead, you learn to treasure each experience without trying to imprison it. You begin loving without controlling, caring without fear, appreciating without clinging. That kind of love is far more powerful because it is rooted in presence rather than insecurity. It celebrates each moment for what it is instead of fearing the day it might end. Releasing attachment doesn't reduce your happiness, it expands it. Life begins to feel lighter because gratitude replaces fear. Every experience becomes more vivid because you stop demanding permanence from temporary things. Rather than resisting change, you start recognizing it as one of life's most faithful companions. Eventually, you discover that happiness was never found in possessing people or circumstances. It has always existed in experiencing life fully while allowing it the freedom to unfold naturally. Take a slow, calming breath and gently loosen your grip. Life is constantly evolving. Seasons change, people change, and you change as well. There is no need to resist that movement. The moment you stop clinging is the moment suffering begins to lose its hold on you. In the quiet space that follows, peace arrives not because life suddenly became predictable, but because you no longer needed it to be. #5. Release the voice that constantly criticizes you. Inside every mind lives a constant stream of conversation. Even in complete silence, that inner voice continues speaking. It comments on your decisions, questions your abilities, judges your mistakes, and often measures your worth against impossible standards. Its volume tends to grow during life's most vulnerable moments. After a setback, it insists you'll never succeed. During uncertainty, it tells you that you're not capable enough. When happiness appears, it may even convince you that you don't deserve it. Because these words come from within, they often feel convincing. It's easy to assume that if your own mind is saying something, it must be true. Yet Buddhist wisdom offers a freeing realization. Your thoughts are not your identity. That critical voice is simply the result of old conditioning. It has been shaped by past experiences, painful memories, fear, social expectations, and habits developed over many years. The mind continuously creates stories, drawing from everything it has ever learned. Some of those stories serve us well, while many quietly limit us. Ironically, the inner critic often believes it is helping. It tries to protect you from disappointment by encouraging you to stay small, avoid risks, and hide from failure. It mistakes harsh judgment for discipline and confuses self-punishment with personal growth. But endless criticism never creates lasting confidence. It produces shame, and shame slowly covers the light that already exists within you. It convinces you to forget your resilience, your kindness, and your potential. Everything begins to change when you stop automatically believing every thought that enters your mind. Instead of becoming absorbed by each mental story, you begin observing it from a place of quiet awareness. As you watch more carefully, patterns become obvious. You notice familiar fears repeating themselves day after day. The same doubts return wearing different disguises. Sometimes your mind criticizes you for not doing enough. Other times, it scolds you for doing too much. One moment it praises you, and the next it tears you down. Gradually, you recognize how unpredictable and inconsistent the mind can be. That realization is incredibly liberating. Buddhism teaches mindfulness not merely as a technique for relaxation, but as a way of seeing clearly. When you become the observer instead of the prisoner of your thoughts, you reclaim your inner freedom. You begin to understand that there is a difference between the thoughts passing through your mind and the quiet awareness watching them. That silent awareness is your truest self. It is calm, compassionate, patient, and wise. It doesn't attack or condemn. It simply notices with clarity. Releasing your inner critic doesn't mean pretending you're perfect or refusing to acknowledge mistakes. Growth still matters. Accountability still matters. The difference is that learning replaces self-punishment. Instead of speaking to yourself with cruelty, you begin offering the same understanding you would naturally give someone you deeply love. Mistakes become opportunities for learning rather than evidence of failure. Moments of confusion become invitations to reconnect with yourself instead of reasons for self-condemnation. Many people believe that being relentlessly hard on themselves will make them stronger. In reality, lasting transformation grows from self-compassion. When you feel emotionally safe within yourself, you're far more willing to learn, change, and grow. Treating yourself with kindness naturally inspires healthier choices, not because you're driven by guilt or fear, but because you genuinely value the person you're becoming. Silencing the inner critic isn't accomplished in a single day. It's a practice repeated again and again. Whenever that familiar voice returns, you notice it without panic. You pause. You breathe. You question whether its message is truly accurate. Then you consciously answer it with greater wisdom, patience, and compassion. Little by little, those moments begin to transform your relationship with yourself. Gradually, that harsh inner dialogue begins to lose its influence. As it fades, another voice quietly takes its place, one grounded in honesty, compassion, and wisdom instead of fear. It reminds you, I'm growing. I'm making progress. I am already enough. Offer yourself the same kindness you so freely extend to others. You've carried invisible burdens that few people have ever seen. You've endured difficult seasons, faced challenges in silence, and continued moving forward despite the weight on your shoulders. You deserve an inner world that feels supportive, rather than hostile, a place of encouragement instead of constant conflict. The moment you stop accepting every self-critical thought as absolute truth, you begin stepping into your authentic strength. That strength doesn't come from trying to repair a version of yourself you believe is damaged. It comes from recognizing that your worth has always been there, waiting to be remembered.